Developing story, Kevin. More from NFL minicamps today. Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger, who's back this season on a restructured contract. Today during workouts, he ended up leaving practice earlier and required attention from the team trainers. Our Steelers reporter Brooke Pryor has more.
The Steelers avoided a potentially nightmare scenario when Ben Roethlisberger went down near the end of the first minicamp practice on Tuesday at Heinz Field. Coach Mike Tomlin offered reassurance afterward that none of the injuries that were sustained, including another to Juju Smith-Schuster, were significant. Quote, "If I thought injury circumstances or reasons why people were not participating were significant, I would share them with you." Before Roethlisberger went down, Tuesday was his first opportunity to work with the full complement of offensive weapons in Matt Canada's scheme. One Roethlisberger said he has some familiarity with, but needs extra studying to learn the lingo. The offense, though, won't end up looking completely foreign to the 17-year vet.
Seems like every offseason in the John Gruden era, we have heard about the future of Derek Carr, but it's been a quiet offseason surrounding the Raiders starter, entering year number 7 as the starting quarterback. Carr, who's had only one winning season, said today he wants to remain a Raider for life.
I've said it over and over again. I'd probably quit football if I had to play for somebody else. You know, I am a Raider for my entire life. I'm going to root for one team for the rest of my life, and it's the Raiders. I think we can all agree that if we were able to pull it off and win a championship here, that would feel much better than just piling a whole bunch of great players together and joining up and doing it that way. I'd rather go down with the ship, you know what I'm saying, if I have to. When I sign a contract, I completely, in my mind, have to fulfill that.
Stay in the NFL, go to Miami. The Dolphins are Tua Tagovailoa's team now. His rookie season, a bit of a mixed bag, you could say, after he was handed the keys. It is a new season, though. Minicamp, time to show what you can do. So, 5 interceptions, not exactly the ideal way for the quarterback to strut his stuff, as you will. Granted, it was raining, and it's minicamp. Here's Tua on learning from his mistakes.
The emphasis for us quarterbacks, we wanted to be aggressive today within the pass game. We wanted to see if we could fit throws in. We wanted to see, what throws we could make, under these conditions. And we were just trying to push the ball vertical down the field. There's some plays that didn't go our way, but that's plays that we can take a look at in the film room and move forward with. Now, obviously, you want to be smart, but if there's a time to make mistakes, now's the time to make mistakes. And we're just trying to see what we can fit in the hole, what we can throw within coverages, and come in the film room and then learn from it.
That's practice. It was like a nice way of saying, like the Allen Iverson, it's practice. We're now joined by NFL reporter Jeff Darlington, Monday Night Football's Loui Ricdic. I'll start with you, Jeff, because you've got that Miami backdrop behind you. You were there in Miami. You were there at the practice. You saw the 5 interceptions. What stood out to you about Tua today?
I was also there for the torrential downpour. And look, it does sound like a crafty excuse from Tua to say we were working on that. But I did speak with people in the organization who actually said head coach Brian Flores talked to the team beforehand and literally said, this is a passing camp. This is a teaching camp. This is the time to make mistakes. This is the time to be aggressive. So when Tua says that afterward, it indeed was seemingly the message that Flores was getting at. Yes, Tua did throw 5 picks. It didn't look pretty at times. Even before the downpour, it looked like Tua at times was struggling with his timing in some of the passes. But again, it did feel like a mini camp practice in June. We should also point out that Tua last season had 290 pass attempts, the longest of which went for 35 yards. So it does make sense that the Dolphins would be practicing some of these downfield passes. Also makes sense that the Dolphins would like to see him perform better. It is June, it is not July, and I'm guessing my guy Loui Ridic's going to agree, but I wait with bated breath to find out.
Yeah, I think that's the point, though, right, Louis? Like, it's not just about minicamp. I keep joking about the fact that it's a minicamp, but I think to Jeff's point, and what I said earlier, is it's based on the body of work that we saw last year and so many question marks that needed to be answered. What would you say is the biggest area of need in terms of improvement for Tua this year?
Yeah, obviously I think it's decision-making and accuracy, which is always going to be the biggest area of improvement for any quarterback, young or old. How quickly can you get the ball out of your hand? Can you put it where it needs to be put, namely to your guy and not to the opponent? and 5 interceptions, you're throwing it to the opponent. You're throwing it to the wrong team. And look, I get the fact that, look, in off-season mini camps and OTAs, having been through them myself from a defensive perspective, coaches are always encouraging you to take your game to another level and push your limits. Find out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And, if they're being honest, they won't hold it against you because you're trying to just improve. You're trying to find out where your limits are. And with Tua, I think it's important that they do that, especially when you're talking about pushing the ball down the field, which is something that they have tried to really incorporate into this offense, which has 2 new offensive coordinators, co-offensive coordinators for Tua this year. So there's a lot of different things. And besides that, just to kind of wrap this all up, El, we all know every interception has its own story. It isn't always about just the quarterback. And Adam Schefter pointed that out today on NFL Live. One of these interceptions bounced right off the hands, I believe it was Mike Gesicki. It was right to him, it bounced off his hands. So take it with a grain of salt. You do this, though, in September, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah,
but it's okay if you do it now.
The training wheels are certainly off, though, right? Because not to Patino game this thing, but Ryan Fitzpatrick is no longer walking in that door in the fourth quarter to save you should you need it. So we'll see what happens. Loui Ricdic, Jeff Darlington with the latest.
Sure.
On a tough day for Tua. It's really just Tua bad that he threw that many interceptions, Kevin.
You're so good, El.
No, basic.
Goodness. All right, let's transition to somebody who's good. Chris Bryant, ranking 5th in the National League.
Where he wants to do it. The Packers say they're not trading him. He wants to play. I think the next touchstone moment becomes right before training camp when we find out whether or not Aaron Rodgers is willing to report back to Green Bay.
Shefty, another ongoing quarterback situation that we've been watching this offseason is Houston's Deshaun Watson, with Texas GM Nick Caserio saying that a decision is coming before their training camp, which starts on July 27th. Shefty, what are you hearing about his future there?
Well, what he means by that is essentially they're going to have some clarity, whether he's cleared, whether he's placed on commissioner exempt list, whether the Texans excuse him from training camp, but they can't just have training camp come without making some sort of decision about how to handle Deshaun Watson and his future going forward. I can tell you that across the league, there's an assumption that the Texans are preparing to move on without him. They signed Tyrod Taylor during the offseason. They used their first pick in the draft on a quarterback, even though it was later on in the draft, and then gave $500,000 in guaranteed money to another quarterback in Jeff Driscoll. So they've made 3 notable quarterback moves. Why do you make 3 quarterback moves if you're counting on having your quarterback come back this upcoming season?
We've certainly heard Taylor sort of say publicly he can still play. He's still got this thing. He is more than capable. Let's talk about the Seahawks. Their mandatory minicamp started today. Their safety, Jamal Adams, is a no-show. Why?
Well, it was an excused absence, but I think it's be very convenient to say it's an excused absence when everybody knows that Jamal Adams wants a new contract, hasn't gotten the new contract, also is dealing with a personal issue right now that did contribute to him staying away from the camp, and the Seahawks did excuse it, which is a wise decision. That means he will not be subject to the $93,000+ in fines. They don't have to fine him for staying away, and now the two sides can figure out whether they can get a deal done before training camp to bring Jamal Adams back to camp on time.
For the folks at home, they're looking for a point of reference in terms of market value. The Broncos made Justin Simmons the highest paid safety at an average of around $15.25 million a year.
That won't make Jamal Adams happy. That will not make him happy.
You want more than that?
Oh, yes, you will.
Okay, all right, there it is. Shefty joining us with the latest around the NFL.
Jon Rahm was leading the Memorial Tournament earlier this month by 6 strokes as he walked off the 18th green after his 3rd round. All smiles. And then the bombshell. He was told that he had tested positive for COVID. He had to withdraw from the tournament and enter isolation, and it was emotional. Fast forward, and Rahm has been cleared and is at Torrey Pines for this week's U.S. Open as the betting favorite. Bob Harrig has more in this SportsCenter report.
Jon Rahm is now negative, and his attitude is positive. It's been a tumultuous 10 days that saw him have to withdraw from the Memorial Tournament after round 3 with a positive COVID-19 test and 6-shot lead.
I put arguably the best performance of my life, and I get told again on live TV, hey, you're not playing tomorrow. So could have been handled a little bit better? Yeah, but the PGA Tour did what they had to do. I've heard a lot of different theories. I should have played alone. I shouldn't have. That's nonsense. You know, the rules are there, and it's clear.
Rahm said Tuesday he was vaccinated, but was not a full 2 weeks removed from the shot at the Memorial. After nearly a week in isolation, 2 negative tests allow Rahm to begin practicing Saturday and put his personal COVID concerns in the rearview mirror.
I got it all. I mean, I had it. I got the antivirus. I got vaccination. I mean, I feel invincible at this point.
Rahm was invincible on the golf course at the Memorial, shooting a